keep it real with ya.
All right, I'm back. So another movie that I really, really liked that I saw last night was Osaka Loan Shark. So Osaka Loan Shark is kind of your standard. Well, it's not really that standard, but like when you think about the genre of like the Yakuza, like the dark parts of the city type of films, you know, the underworld of Osaka, like stuff like that. If you ever play Yakuza Zero, Yakuza Kiwami, it's kind of like those areas. Now, what I first thought was going to happen when I was looking at it was like, oh, this is going to be about the Yakuza, right? It wasn't necessarily about the Yakuza. It is about loan sharks in Osaka. So you have this main character. Let me get this dude's name. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Haruo Sugimura. So Sugimura, as everybody calls him, or Sugimura. I'm not gonna be able to keep up the Japanese pronunciation, but Sugimura is this guy who's like, he's a young guy. He's really hot tempered. It seems like in the beginning of the film that he already has a criminal record because he like works with this company and I guess they're like cleaning or whatever. They work in this factory and they're like, yeah, we hire people who have criminal records. You should be grateful for us hiring you. And so it's kind of implied in the movie that he already has a criminal record when he goes to work with these people at the factory. The summary doesn't necessarily say that. And the rest of the movie doesn't operate as if that is true. So it's a little weird. It's a little fuzzy. But basically he starts out working for this factory and the guys are total dicks there. You know, there's the guy who owns the place, and then there's his son who's a dick, and there's his daughter who's like an office worker. She's really nice. And then there's a guy who's former Yakuza. They said he was former Yakuza. This might be a subtitle issue because, again, this is one of them things that just doesn't hold up for the rest of the movie. But they say he's a former Yakuza. He's got the tattoos and everything. He also is a bully. And so the guys kind of mess with him. They're like, yeah, you're going to wash our clothes, which makes no sense. But they're like, yeah, you're going to wash our clothes and you should be grateful that we're being so nice to you. And they're all threatening and intimidating, whatever. And the guy gets really upset. But he washes the clothes because he doesn't want to get jumped by all the other guys because it's like his first day at the job. So oh no, not a fucking cicada done attached itself to my window. If it starts up, I'm going to have to spray him. He going to have to get sprayed. You better get up off my window, sir. Oh no, this is going to make me so uncomfortable. Let me show you this thing. It's fucking, that's gross. I hate it. As soon as I walk up on him with the bleach, that's why he want to run away. But yeah. So Sugimura is getting bullied and they're like, hey, you got to wash our clothes, blah, blah, blah. So, especially the Yakuza guy, he's like, you gonna wash my uniform, you gonna wash my actual shirt, you know, look at my Yakuza tattoos, I'm scary, blah, blah. So Sugimura washes them and then he goes to eat lunch. He gets into it with this guy that bumps into him. He almost beats him half to death, but then an older man steps in and is like, you don't want to do this, just go home, the police are on their way, you don't want to do this. So the guy goes back to the job and that's when he realizes that somebody had put black ink all over the Yakuza guy's uniform, and he blames Sugimura, of course. And Sugimura is like, I didn't do it. And he looks over and he sees the other guy that's bullying him with a thing full of black ink. He's just like laughing, ha ha ha. So Sugimura completely loses it. He freaks out. He jumps that dude who messed up the uniform, starts beating him. The Yakuza guy gets involved. Yakuza guy gets his ass whooped. Like, I don't know where Sugimura was doing before this, but the dude had some kind of training because he whooped everybody ass. Like, all of the guys, like, they literally was calling the other guys over, like, help us, let's get him. And he was whooping everybody ass. And I'm like, how you whoop like, it had to at least been like 7-8 dudes that jumped you, and you get away from them and you swing on everybody and you knock everybody the fuck out. So he just lays everybody down, and it's hilarious because these guys they're very rude to him. They're very mean. They intimidate him. They want him to be scared of them, and then he kicks all their asses. So it feels really good, but he goes to jail, you know, because you can't just throw hands on people like that. So he gets fired. He goes to jail for about 2 years, which I'm like, Yeah, I guess if he was a white man, he probably wouldn't go to jail at all. So, yeah, 2 years. Okay, I don't know the legal system in Japan, but he goes to jail for 2 years for whooping everybody's ass. And he gets out, and these actual Yakuza come up. They are from the, if I'm familiar, Kitawami clan. One is just like, local Yakuza clans. And they asked him to join the Yakuza because they hear how he whooped everybody's ass, and they hear how he even whooped the other dude who was Yakuza. Like that other dude, the other Yakuza dude got his ass whooped by Sugimura so bad that he got kicked out of his own gang. And I find that to be hilarious. But they were like, yeah, you whooped his ass, so join the Yakuza because you belong with us. And then he's like, no, 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 no. I'm not about that life. I don't want to do it. And then he ends up going to eat lunch at the place that he used to eat lunch at, after unsuccessfully, of course, searching for jobs because nobody wanted him with a criminal record, but also his temper, they were just like, no. So he ends up going to this place, this ramen place to eat, and he sees the old man that stopped him from beating up that other guy 2 years ago. And he's like, oh my God, I remember you. You stopped me from beating up that other guy. But I still went to jail because I went to my job and I beat up everybody at work. So the guy was like, oh my God, you got to really work on your temper. I remember you. And then he's like, well, do you want to work for me? And the guy's like, I done already told the other dude I ain't doing that Yakuza shit. And he's like, I'm not a Yakuza. I'm a loan shark. And he's like, oh, you're a loan shark. Okay, I see what this is about. So you get to meet all the loan shark people. And it's the typical thing of like a loan shark. They find people who are desperate to borrow money. They charge over the legal amount of interest on it. They intimidate and bully people to get the money back. That's what they do. But they don't just pick on like small people, because sometimes small people just can't pay back, but they also go after like these bigger schemes that involve millions and millions of yen. And that's really how they keep everything going, in addition to their small thing of like, oh yeah, you're a gambler, you need 30,000 yen to do XYZ, here it is, we want 50% interest back. So they do both of those. So Sugimura gets involved with all of that, and then by just nature of Osaka, I guess, the underworld of Osaka, he ends up running back into the Yakuza that he had rejected before. It becomes this whole convoluted thing of like intimidation, coercion. They try to get Sugimura to do things that they shouldn't do. One of the things I thought was really funny was that the guy who bullied him at his old job and got him arrested because he you beat his ass and he called the police on you, shows up and is like, oh, you're a loan shark now? Loan us some money. And I don't know how the Japanese people are supposed to take this, but I took this as like, this nigga trying to play you. He trying to play you. And that's what the loan shark people said. They're like, he's trying to play you. He's trying to manipulate you. He sees you as easy to manipulate, so that he's going to use you to get money. And he's most likely not going to pay it back. So that's what ends up happening. They end up loaning to him, but they're like, here's the interest rate. Then he can't pay it back. And it becomes a whole thing. And the sister, the one woman who worked at that organization, they are like, well, we're going to take this woman and we're going to like prostitute her or something to get money out of her. But they don't actually do that. They come up with another option, which I think is really unique. I was not expecting it, and I think you should watch it so you can see really what it is and like how doing that, how that affects her mentally. But I would say a lot of things about this movie I was not expecting to happen, because I kind of expected, yeah, your past going to catch up with you. So, the people you used to work with, yeah, they're going to come back into the picture. I figured that stuff would happen. I figured at some point the Yakuza would get involved. I thought it was going to be more like, they lend money to somebody who owes money to the Yakuza, and then they have to fight with the Yakuza or whatever. And it sets it up a little bit in some situations where you think that's what's about to happen, but that's not really what's about to happen. So I just was like on the edge of my seat the whole time because I just did not know what was going to happen next. Everything was just so unexpected. And I feel like that's really good writing when you expect things to go one way, but it goes a completely different way that you never thought that it would go that way. So I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed how, I think with other movies with the Yakuza too is like, it's very unapologetic with the violence. You know what I mean? Like they're going to show the fights. And Well, I will say about some of these indie movies that I saw, the fights, you could tell they're not actually hitting the people. Um, and there's a lot of digital blood that gets used. This movie felt more like, yeah, I didn't exactly see the hit, but the sound of the hit, the blood that sprayed that looked real, really made my brain connect the dots of like, oh, he's actually hitting him, even if I didn't actually see it. So I really, really appreciated that about the film. I appreciate the characters of the film. Obviously, Sugimura has the most development because he's like the star of the film, but I do think you kind of get attached to some of the characters and you care about what happens to them. Like there are times when you're like, oh God, I hope the Yakuza don't kill this person because they know he works for the loan sharks and they got beef with them and da 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 da. I hope he doesn't die, because that's, what you expect with the Yakuza. They're scary like that. Or I hope that, they don't get their gang and they all show up at like the ramen shop and like beat everybody's ass. Like things like that you would expect to happen don't. And there's just a lot of twists and turns that happens. And it's just a really, really fun ride. I was disappointed at the end because the movie just ended. Like the movie was like, I mean, I guess there was a couple wrap ups with the Yakuza storyline at the least. But there was some other things that I was waiting on this movie to go even longer. I was like, it didn't feel wrapped up. I'm like, is there a part 2 coming? Like, what's up? I want to know what happened with the girl. I want to know what happens with Sugimura. Does it stay his job? Does he quit? Does he do something else? Is the job too much for him? Does he get murdered by Yakuza? Like, what happens? Because, I mean, you don't just piss off the Yakuza. You know what I mean? It just felt like a lot of stuff didn't feel wrapped up. So I just really would like to see what this filmmaker makes in the future because I just really like the film. And something else I really thought about when I was talking to my friend last night was Japanese acting, like I said earlier, has extremes, right? You got the super subdued people, and then you have the over the top, I think I'm an anime character people. And so sometimes that can be a bit frustrating. But whenever I see a gangster film, a Japanese gangster film, or any type of Japanese underworld film where there are like Yakuza or like dangerous people involved, the acting is so much better. The acting is really, really good with these types of films. And I feel like it probably is because you probably have actors who've been waiting their whole life to be a Yakuza and they finally get to be one in the film. So they really get to tap into like whatever's inside them that makes them dangerous enough to do the things that they have to do in their role. So I really, really like seeing how they really just, they get into these roles. You know what I mean? Like these people do seem scary. They do seem threatening versus even when you have like a movie where there's like a serial killer or something, it don't really feel like I'm watching a serial killer. It still sometimes feel like I'm watching a Japanese person trying to be a serial killer, but they don't want to go too far. Because at the end of the day, they like Japanese people are trained to be like very, very conservative, very kind, very nice to each other, very quiet. So even when I see them play like more dangerous roles, if it's not like a gangster type role, I don't feel like they give it their all. I don't feel like they really get into, I am this character. They either just try to play it straight where they're like silent and deadly, or they try to go over the top where they're like super crazy and hope people are scared then. So I just feel like this movie I felt was acted very well. They had to have a good budget with the effects of everything. It just felt real. I really liked a lot of the characters, even though I probably shouldn't like some of the characters because they are bad people. But I got attached to some of the characters and I was like, there's this one woman who you never get to see her do anything dangerous, but she seems like she already gives off the air of like, I'm a dangerous person. And people do talk about how like she's into seeing things that are like crime or whatever. You never get to see her actually do anything to anybody. So you see this young woman and like this guy, he's like desperate for money and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna rob you. And you're like, oh shit, is she gonna get murdered? She's here by herself, as you would think a woman here by herself, and you have this desperate man come in that really wants money and is down on his luck and really willing to do whatever to get the money. And let's just say he don't get that money. If the nigga survives, I don't know. I didn't see what happened to him. I assume something bad happened to him. But yeah, it was a really good movie. I really enjoyed the acting. I really enjoyed the story. I felt like I genuinely felt conflicted in certain situations, because sometimes I felt like, oh man, you should do this, but then also, nah, they bad people too, or, oh, this is Yakuza, but damn, he also got a heart of gold. He out here trying to help the poor people in the community. Like, you don't get anything that you expect with Osaka Loan Shark. So I definitely recommend watching it, and I will definitely be on the lookout for anything that this filmmaker makes after this. If there's like a sequel or even just another movie similar to this, I'm definitely going to be watching it.